Welcome to Beyond the Balance Sheet, where we are offering a new series from Westcorp and Overland Studios that's going to focus on discussions centered around issues that are very important for credit unions, but that go beyond the balance sheet. I'm Walt Laskos. I'm the Director of Public Relations at Westcorp, and I'm going to be the host and moderator for the series Beyond the Balance Sheet. Today, our topic is Earth Day 2008. And joining me for today's discussion are, maybe we could say, our guinea pigs for this opening show. I have three individuals. The first is Francis Kuhn. Francis is the Vice President of Facilities Administration at Westcorp. Rick Stanton is with me. Rick is the Director of Product Development at Westcorp. And today, a special treat coming to us via telephone bridge is Sarah Snell-Cook. Sarah is the new editor-in-chief at the Credit Union Times, and she's in Fulton, Maryland, nice and cozy, and as I say, joining us by telephone bridge. So, and thank you all for being with me. And let's begin with a little background. And then we'll talk to Francis about facilities and what Westcorp is doing and some ideas that we have that we could share with you about saving money at your credit union. That also ties in with Earth Day and being environmentally responsible. We'll then talk with Rick, and Rick will talk to us about digital capture and digital settlement and how that really can be posed as a very environmental friendly avenue for you to exploit your credit union. A lot of credit unions are already doing that. And then Sarah, lastly, will join us and give us some tips and ideas on how we could work with the news media in our local communities so that when you're doing something at your credit union that's really earth-friendly, you have a good way of being able to get that in the newspapers and get some publicity and promote your credit union in that vein. The idea here today from our discussion of what we're doing is to provide you with ideas to help your credit union observe Earth Day. We invite you to send your questions to us during our discussions. If you look at the screen on your computer, you'll see that there's a link on the toolbar that says to send questions. Click on that link. You could type it in. I'll see it right here in the studio, and I'll know and I'll be able then to ask the panelists that are with me for their response to that question. Also, if you have technical problems, the number to call is 877-293-8891. 877-293-8891. To be quite frank, though, I mean, when you talk about a telephone number to call if you're having technical problems, I suspect you're not able to see or hear us. So that'd make it a little difficult to call that number. But I just do what I'm told, folks. Let's start with a little background on Earth Day 2008. From today, 6 weeks exactly, is April 22nd. And that will be the official Earth Day observance throughout the planet. Little history. In September 1969, at a conference in Seattle, Washington, U.S. Senator Gaylord Nelson announced that in the spring of 1970, there would be a nationwide grassroots demonstration on the environment. Earth Day founder Nelson first proposed a nationwide environmental protest to thrust the environment onto the national agenda. 5 months before Earth Day in that year, the New York Times carried a lengthy article reporting on the rising tide of environmental events. It said, rising concern about the environmental crisis is sweeping the nation's campuses with an intensity that may be on its way to eclipsing student discontent over the Vietnam War. A National Day of Observance of Environmental Problems is being planned for next spring, when a nationwide environmental teach-in coordinated from the office of Senator Gaylord Nelson is planned. So each year on April 22nd, everyone really observes Earth Day. And on April 22nd, 1970, the first real observance of this, 20 million Americans, 20 million, took to the streets, the parks, the auditoriums to demonstrate for a healthy, sustainable environment. The first Earth Day, which I never realized, led to the creation of the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the passage of the Clean Air, Clean Water, and Endangered Species Acts. Senator Nelson was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest honor given to civilians in the United States, for his role as Earth Day founder. And then, of course, obviously, Earth Day went global. And Earth Day 2007 was one of the largest Earth Day observances to date, with an estimated billion people participating in activities all over the world. So we can expect Earth Day on April 22nd, 2008 to be no different than what we've seen in the past, probably much larger. That's part of the issue of what's coming up, Earth Day, April 22nd. But along with that, there is also a lot of things that we hear going on in the news. I mean, we hear constantly about global warming. Over here in the Los Angeles market where we are located, for example, recently there was an article in the LA Times by Margaret Roosevelt back on February 16th. It said, Los Angeles is ready to enact tighter green building standards. Los Angeles, known for its choking smog and fuel-burning gridlock, is poised to adopt one of the toughest green building ordinances in the nation. 2 city council committees voted Friday to require that all major commercial and residential developments slash projected energy and water use and reduce the overall environmental footprint, placing the city on the cutting edge of an international movement to address the global warming effects that buildings have. So you look at stuff like this in the news. You look at everything that's focusing on global warming. Earth Day on April 22nd is definitely going to be touching on a lot of those topics. The question now is, how can credit unions capitalize on that? How can you position yourself as being environmentally friendly? How can you promote the credit union, your shop, in a very positive manner that positions it as being sensitive to these issues? And obviously, those are the types of things that folks like to be associated with. So there's all good to come out of this, in addition to saving money. At this time, I want to turn it over to Francis. Francis has a list of opportunities for us to take a look at as ideas of what he has done and instituted here at Westcorp in San Dimas that really will give you an opportunity to perhaps implement one or two of these as well. So Francis, it's all yours.
Well, thank you, Walter. And good day, everybody. Besides Earth Day, Westcorp has an emphasis of being a good community servant. And one of the things that we just did recently in regards to our environmental, our energy efficiency goals was to participate with the city in sponsoring an Arbor Day activity. Kevin, do you have that slide? Or the photos? And basically what we did is we worked with the city on taking the local elementary school here and exposing the 3rd grade class to environmental issues. Not only did we experience and participate in planting trees, we also used this as an opportunity to train our young children about what the environment it is and why there is an Arbor Day, which then feeds into Earth Day and the emphasis on climate change, global warming, and what all of us can do as individuals to assist. Some of the things that Westcorp is looking at is we're going to be providing, Vanna, would you please?
Yes,
be providing canvas grocery tote bags. Here in the Los Angeles area, as across the country and internationally, we are going to be starting to eliminate plastic bags. Some of the stores that I visit have already announced that by June 30th, they will no longer be providing plastic bags, and they'll be charging 25 cents per paper bag. A lot of stores here are already offering these type of bags so that we can convert from non-perishable type of product to a sustainable product that we can get a lot of use out of.
And Francis, if I might just jump in on that, this canvas bag that we're going to hand out to our staff on April 22nd, the concept, the genesis of that thought came from an article, again, in the Los Angeles Times, where the focus was, actually it was a February 20th article by Martha Groves talking that Santa Monica looks at banning single-use plastic bags. We saw that in the papers, and Francis and I, in our discussions about what can we do to mark the occasion, thought, well, if there's no longer going to be plastic bags in the grocery stores, why don't we give our staff a canvas bag, put our name on it. Now when you're going into the supermarket, the grocery market with the bags with credit unions on there, there's your advertisement for your credit union. There's an opportunity to position yourself again as being really environmentally responsible. So just a quick little idea, but again, born from being aware of what's going on in a larger community.
And the things that you can do at your local credit union can be small as well as large. I'm going to start with the small ones that we're doing in celebration of Earth Day and being environmentally conscious within the community. One of the things that we also did is we've eliminated styrofoam cups within all of our facilities for all 500 employees. And we provided them thermos-type mugs that are spill-proof. Not only does it help me maintain the carpet and the appearance of our venue, of our site, but also we're not spending the money on the styrofoam. We were spending close to $20,000 a year on styrofoam products. We have a large staff, and so now what we've done is we provided the mugs, and then for our guests, we have a supply of either china, porcelain, or paper-type products that we can continue to serve our guests as they come in. So we're not eliminating being friendly to our members and to our guests. You can work around it. We also have implemented a program within our purchasing department that if we can purchase something within 10% of its original list price that is a recyclable product, we purchase it. So currently, right now, we're buying 30% recyclable paper. That means the paper mix is 30% recycled, it's 70% virgin. But the cost is only 8% at this time, so we're helping the environment by using these recycled products. We also have a very informal recycling program. We have bins around the facility that we collect white paper. We also collect cans, plastics, glasses. The money goes back to the employee assistance program. So if the committee that does all of our events, our parties, our picnics, so we're recycling the product as well as helping employees have a good time. And then we also have a voluntary rideshare program. Here in Southern California, we're under the mandate of the Southern California Air Quality Managed District, and there are certain regulations for certain types of businesses with certain type of populations. And so we don't meet that criteria, but we as a corporate citizen have decided that we want to participate, and so we have a voluntary rideshare program. We do bus passes, we do transit passes, we do bicycle passes, we do events to make sure that it's in the consciousness of our employees of what they can do the rideshare. We support van pools, we do gift incentives, anything that we can do to encourage people to carpool. Those are low-cost solutions. Some of the higher costs, but you can get a return on investment, are things such as putting in smart building controls. We have a control that adjusts our lighting, we can control our thermostats, we can control our air ventilation and our air volume. Saves a tremendous amount of money. And I think the smart system we put in was a train system, and it took us 3 years to have a return on investment. So now everything that we're doing contributes to that cost saving. We've also installed, on a large scale, we have a large facility, 100,000 square feet. On each end of the building, there are air handlers. Well, instead of having a constant flow of 40 or 30% airflow mixing in with the existing, we've reduced it so we have variable speeds. And that way we're using less energy, and we're also not having to use energy to recirculate and condition that air that we're bringing in from the outside. We've done things like window tinting on our south and west facing exposures. Cuts down on the ambient heating, ambient lighting, as well as just reducing the load of our HVAC system by reducing the heat load.
Now, Francis, I might jump in on that one. When you talk about just tinting the windows facing the southern exposure, how much? I mean, obviously, the more windows you have, the more it's going to cost. But we're probably not talking major costs there. But probably, I would suspect, somewhat of a good contribution back in terms of savings.
Window tinting paid for itself within 8 months. I think the total cost for our facility was about $3,000, and we have a 100,000 square foot facility, and we probably had close to about 5,000 linear feet of windows. So the 5,000 linear feet, $3,000, we returned investment in 8 months, and from that point on, we continue to save money.
Yeah.
Simple things like putting occupancy sensors in your large conference rooms and offices. I have one in my office, and I know it's a pain because you have to adjust the sensitivity. But if I'm sitting there and I'm locked onto my PC and my keyboard, and if I'm just keying for 20 minutes, all of a sudden my lights go on. There's a joke in my department that I have to do the Westcore wave in order for the lights to go back on. It's a small sacrifice. And if you remember, you shouldn't be sitting at a workstation for 20 minutes. You should get up and stretch so you don't hurt yourself and just be active. It's not going to happen. It happens once or twice a week, and I think about how dumb it is. I've been sitting there for 20 minutes just so focused on something. It gives me a good mental break.
But, I can't help but think about, obviously, we might all, when we were kids, and, Dad always coming out, turn off the lights because we leave them burning. But, you're using energy, it's money, and if there's a way to do it where you could save the money for the credit union, that's a good way with them. How much do one of those motion sensors cost?
Well, there's a range of motion sensors, and we use probably mid-range sensors. They're probably about $140, $150, and with an electrician, it's probably another, all net about $300. But within a year, you're going to recover that cost, especially if it's a room that is used maybe 3 or 4 times a day, and if they leave the lights on. Yeah, it's easy to tell people to turn the lights off, but you know what? It's not always the same person leaving the office, and this is just a real simple way of doing it. And you can buy the higher end that have higher sensitivity, and you can adjust it for time, and you can even have it with heat sensors, so if they sense heat in the room, if there's a body in the room, they stay on, and after the heat sensing there's no more body source or heat source, then they automatically turn off.
That's what they have up in Silicon Valley, right?
A lot of places.
Yeah.
Another thing we've done is we've reduced the voltage and the wattage of our lights. We were talking about Environmental Protection Agency. In 1992, they came out with EPAC 1992, which mandated through the reduction of certain types of ballasts in lighting fixtures. We went through that process, and now we're even tweaking it even further. We have 3 light fluorescent fixtures, and we either take out 1 tube or take out 2 tubes, depending on what the user is comfortable with. And when you have large areas, expanses of 10, 15,000 square feet, all on the same circuit, to rewire the circuit would be very costly. It would be just simple of unscrewing a light bulb or taking it off. It saves a lot of money. The other thing that could be touchy is the elimination of personal electronics. We have no fans. We have no heaters. We discourage personal radios. Anything that we can do, and our facilities department is very active in looking at offices and seeing if there are desk lamps that we are not aware of. Not only is there a safety issue that we're concerned about, but in the expense of the use of electricity in powering those systems. Then you need to consider changing technology, something that we did here. We have 2 facilities. One has an emergency power system that's backed up by diesel. Our other facility, the one that's housing this webcast, the studio, we have a natural gas microturbine. And what allows us to do it at a lower cost is we generate our own power, and now the utility has become our backup. We still have a UPS system. We're going to tie the 2 systems in between the 2 buildings so we have redundancy. But over this past year, we saved over $86,000 for servicing a 25,000 square foot facility, just by substituting electric costs from the utility by natural gas costs.
Now, you said $86,000. The key thing here is Francis is available. We'll share his email with you afterward, because anyone that's interested in taking similar type of tactics to save money at the credit union, why not? And I'm sure that you'd be happy to help in any way you can.
And one of the slides you'll see at the end is a slide of all the sources. Through your local utilities and through the feds, there are a lot of rebates out there for providing you with the impetus to go ahead and to install systems. And I'm going to be talking about one in a couple of minutes about photovoltaic cells or solar panels. Another long-term cost you should consider is your landscaping. If you just have a parking lot and there's no vegetation because you're worried about the expense of maintaining the trees and everything, the more shade that you can provide, even the color of the pavement, if you can get away from the dark blacks and grays, it retains the heat, which generates a heat island around your facility, which makes your interior HVAC system work harder. If there's some way that you can mitigate that by using a softer tone, there are now asphalts that can be blended with colors, that they can be made light, like a concrete color, but it's asphalt. There's a lot of things you can do, and with the vegetation. You can actually even put vegetation on roofs if you have someone look at your structural engineering, make sure that the weight load is appropriate. The color of the roof. If you use a dark, old-fashioned tar and gravel type roofing system, you're paying a lot in energy costs to operate your HVAC. If you went to something that would be more reflective, a white type of tone, a membrane of that sort, you're going to reduce your power consumption by 20% on average. It's just a very simple fix. It looks costly when your CEO sees the cost or CFO sees the cost right up front, but once you show them how much money you'll be saving, you'll pay for it in 2 or 3 years. And the big thing here at Westcor is staff communication. We work with our staff. You know, the thing about you left the office, you needed to turn off your light. We give them the choice. Either put a sensor on your office or be environmentally conscious. So if you choose not to put a sensor on, we see you walk away, I'll give them a reminder. Your light's off. I'll go in their office and turn the light off on them.
Actually, Francis comes after you with a baseball bat.
Not a baseball bat. It's an old light fixture. But it's just everyone buying into it, and here the staff do buy into it because they do see the results and they understand the impact. I mentioned a little bit earlier that we installed solar panels. We installed 77 solar panels. We received a rebate from our local utility, Southern California Edison, to provide up to a generating capacity of up to 4 to 5% of our energy costs. Now, when we're using $40,000 a month, and if I can reduce that by 5%, and in the summer it's even higher because of the heat quotient and of more sunny days, no fog, no cloud cover, it makes sense. It costs us $115,000, of which more than half of it was rebated to us. Our original analysis that we sold this to our board is that we would have a return of investment in a little less than 7.5 years. We did it in under 42 months, 44 months. It was amazing. Ooh. Now all that money is being saved, and that money is our members' money. So not only are we providing less expense and we're being environmentally conscious, but we're providing more funds for our members.
Well, that's it. I mean, the more efficient you can be, that's obvious, the more then you can return back to the members. All of us can as financial cooperatives.
Exactly. I'm blessed because I have some very highly qualified and professional staff. I belong to some organizations that I am allowed to participate with that give me a forum to learn about things and to apply those best practices here at Westcor. One of the things that we pursued was an Energy Star designation, and that basically says that you're within the first 25% of energy efficiency buildings within the country. You do it, it's based on a load analysis, how much heating, how much electrical, how many people, what's the use of the office. But that designation is very important to us. Additionally, we're pursuing LEED EB. LEED EB is basically Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And it used to be a program for just new construction, but now they have one what's called EB for existing buildings, and that's something we're pursuing. And not only incorporates energy efficiency in construction, and when you do redesign, how much of the material is being recycled and how much recycled material you're placing into the building, but also goes into things as purchasing. What is your purchasing practice? Are you using recyclable materials like paper if you can? It goes into your travel practices. Are you getting the best rates, which again is economics for a credit union, but it's also the efficiency because of the carbon footprint that airlines are making and what airlines are you using. So there's a lot of things that you can do with LEED EB. Another one is operation and maintenance. A lot of people, a lot of credit unions, you just contract with a janitorial firm. Well, is the janitorial firm that you're contracting green? It may not cost you anything more, but they may be using solvents and chemicals that are hazardous to the environment that if you're using a green janitorial firm, you can eliminate.
One question that has come in, a viewer is asking, how effective and practical is solar power as an ancillary power source? Obviously, when you look at where we're located in Southern California, that's one thing. I grew up in Northeast Pennsylvania, lived in the Northeast, Albany, the whole, when you're up in that, you see the sun maybe, folks tell me, maybe once a year. What's the value?
It all depends. It depends where you are. And if you are considering solar, I'm sure you've already done the research, I would say wait about a year. There's new technologies that the roofing companies are now working with the solar development companies. Before it used to be you had a roofing membrane and you would put the solar panel on top because it was flat and it was a good place to place it. No one could see it. It wasn't bothering. It wasn't taking up any square footage. But now they're actually making roofing membranes that encompass the silicone-based solar collectors that protects your facility from the environment and from weather and things of that sort, but also it can generate the power at the same time. And with that type of solution, in the Northeast, the northern tiered states, Washington, you could still benefit from that. Obviously, people in the Sun Belt are going to have an advantage because there's more sun.
Yeah. I know, because I'm thinking that the average folks would probably just think, well, we have a lot of cloudy days, it's not going to be worth it. But even that type of a weather environment, one can still gain from having solar panels.
And there's new technology coming up all the time. There is a new technology being tested right now in Chicago, wind turbines. And you think wind turbines, you're thinking about these gigantic fans that if any of you in California have gone either through the Lamont Pass up in Northern California or the pass out here by Palm Springs, you see these farms of these gigantic fans. No. These things are very small. They're about 6 foot in diameter, and they look like corkscrews. And as the wind passes through it, because it's multi-dimensional, the wind can come from various directions. It turns a turbine, and these things, the cost of these, the development is shrinking. Mm-hmm. A city like Chicago and people that have a lot of wind, you may have an advantage with wind technology. So I would suggest just pursuing energy experts in your area. And if you need help with that, again, contact me, because I do belong to the International Facilities Association, and I can help try to lead you to some people in your area.
And Francis, I was going to jump on that too, because you mentioned that you belong to a number of these organizations. I would suspect that probably is also valuable for any other individual, that CFO or facilities manager, to pursue those kind of relationships as well, because it sounds like you could really learn a lot by participating in these groups.
Definitely. I mean, these professional associations, either being professional American engineers or international facility managers, office administrators, it's not only the educational value that you get from it, it's also from the networking, because I find that there are people out there who have done these things, and I can learn from best practices. I can take the technology and applications that they've looked at, maybe even implemented, take a look at them. I'm a hands-on type of guy. I'm a facilities guy. I like to test things. I like to hit things, see how they smell, how they taste. To go see it in operation and look at the results. Mm-hmm. You know, how much money have they actually saved? Show me the numbers so that I can take it back to my management and say, here's something that we should consider. Well, and management being receptive is key, I understand. And a lot of credit unions may be mid-sized, smaller, that may not have the resources. But again, there's the rebates and there's opportunities to work with the utilities. The utility here in Southern California, Edison, has been working with us, pursuing to see if we have space that we could build a generator that we would use in emergency, but for the most part, we would sell the energy back to them. And they're willing to finance it and do the lease. We just have to provide the land and the commitment to doing it.
Let's say, the effort is all worthwhile, because I think when you look at what we're basically averaging in savings at Westcorp because of all these kind of things that you're doing, it's well worth it.
Definitely. We're saving $140,000 a year, and as rates continue to increase, that savings is going to increase. And some of the future things that we're going to be implementing, like tying our diesel generator with our natural gas generator, are going to provide us even more savings. One of the things about the micro turbine generators, not only are we generating our own power for electricity, but the waste product called cogeneration is actually the heat is actually running our air conditioning system. So here we're sitting in this studio, and it's nice and comfortable, and it's being generated by heat, and we're generating it at the same time we're generating electricity. So we don't have to pay for the air that's coming in here because it's already paid for.
Let's keep the hot air outside.
Yes. So I was talking about Southern California Edison, which is our local utility, and they have a lot of programs available. One of the programs we're working with them right now is a load reduction program. And we've entered into a 2-year commitment where during 4 months during the year, obviously the summer months, June, July, August, September, we agree to shut down non-critical power for a 2-hour window between 4 and 6. So for a maximum of 8 days a year, we're going to reduce our power. They give us a day advance notice so we can let staff know, hey, the lights are going to be off. We're still going to have air conditioning. We're still going to have our computer center. Our main businesses are going to be open, but we're going to turn off lights here and there because we have all this technology that we're going to install. And we're going to save $60,000, $70,000 additionally on top of the savings we already have, just because we get a rate reduction. So there are things in your local areas that you really need to pursue that you could make a significant savings.
I guess one thing that I'd ask, too, is Southern California Edison similar to many of the other power companies throughout the country, or are we kind of in a situation where we could take advantage of more of these kind of opportunities?
I think there is an advantage because there are more resources for us to tap into that are environmentally friendly, power, solar, and things of that sort. But to be honest with you, I think it's cyclical. It starts in one part of the country and then it fades away, but it blooms up in another part of the country and then it fades away and it blooms up. There's a domino effect, and There's competition between the states. There's competition for federal funds. There's competition for the local energy markets that are being deregulated and expanding. So there's obviously a lot of opportunities for us. And there's a lot of sources out there. And I'd be willing to field any of your calls or messages, send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to help you out.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Let me again remind you that if you do have any questions, we're going the wrong way with that, Francis. Sorry, I'm messing it up. There we go. Now we're going the right way. But if you do have any questions, as the slide indicates, look on your screen down at the bottom panel. You'll see a link that says to submit questions. Click on that link, type it in for us. It comes back to us here in the studio, and we'll present that to those that are with me, and we'll find the best answer to your question. So please do. We look forward to your input, or even your comments, whether you think this is worthwhile or not, or if you think that there's a great opportunity here for your credit union to save some money. That'd be great. That's what this program is supposed to be about. Now, if you think you could save money in this direction with Francis, wait till you hear what Rick Stanton has to say, because here's going to be a whole other way to look at things and how to save money, and at the same time, be environmentally responsible and be environmentally friendly. Ways that you could tout yourself as a leader in that area come April 22nd and Earth Day. So, Rick, I'm dying to hear what you have to say about credit unions and what we all can do.
Francis just gave you a myriad of solutions and opportunities that you have with your facilities out there. And my opportunity here is to present you with some things that you can do inside your business and how you present products and services to your membership out there, and how those can be taken as an environmentally step forward in our partnerships to make a greener environment for all of us out there. And if you look at and focus on some of these slides that I have here, these hexagons are slides that we traditionally use to talk to our members and get feedback on the kinds of products and services and needs and all that they have in their environment. And basically, they're the traditional, we need to have more streamlined operations. We need to have more cost-effective solutions out there, and we need to be able to provide more products and services to our members. But if you look at the green items that I put on there in the environment and say, this is what we're doing, we need to be a better partner in the world around us and include these kinds of tasks out there, then this is the kinds of questions that you would be asking. Where are we today? Today, in item processing especially, we're talking about having large buildings, a lot of infrastructure, a lot of people doing tasks out there, especially in the area of collecting checks, scanning them, running them through facilities, transporting them from one location to another. When you're talking about the credit union out there and the things that they're doing, we call it the sneaker net, because there's a lot of running around going along. And you talk all the way back to your members bringing checks into the branch and depositing them. So they're getting in a car, they're driving. If it's a small business, they're doing it probably between 15 and 20 times a month that they're in your branch location out there. If it's an individual member, at least once or twice a month that they're probably in your branch just to deposit an item. At the end of every single day, you have a courier that comes along, and they're going through and picking up batches of checks from every single branch location, putting them in a car, getting on a freeway, driving to other locations, bringing all those bags to a central processing area, either at your credit union if you're processing your own items, or possibly through a provider such as Westcor that's a consolidator of processing for many credit unions. Once we do our work and have those checks, we in turn bundle all of that work up, put it in a car, take it to an airport, send it off on a plane somewhere to clear at other points out there. So you get the feel here. There's a lot of moving around, there's a lot of transportation, there's a lot of fuel being used, there's a lot of time and a lot of people involved in all of these processes. If you look inside a credit union organization or a financial institution, if you process your own items, you have a machine similar to this. It's about the size of a desk. So one person sits here, they run items through, they're key punching, they're balancing, they're using all of this energy and facilities space to do this. This could take up anywhere from hundreds to thousands of square feet, depending on the number of machines you use. But even if you're doing it internally at your own organization, you have to have at least a few of these so you have backup should anything go wrong. Once they run them through this machine, then they take those same items to another location. It could be in the same room there or an adjoining room, and they run them through a machine like this that sorts all of those items out to all their destination points. And so in a facility like Westcor, we may have 4 or 5 of these kinds of machines, and certainly in a smaller institutions they'll have 1 or 2. An institution the size of something like Bank of America probably has 50, 60, or 100 of these machines in operation at any given point in time. The key here, though, is that with all the new technology, this little machine here, this scanner, replaces all of that. This is what you can have at your branch location. This is what you could push out at a merchant location, and even smaller ones at home locations that do all the same work as those 2 machines that we've just previously seen up there. And it doesn't have anywhere near the footprint. It doesn't require anywhere near the facilities to maintain this or the people to run it. So you're saving on physical space, you're saving on maintenance for utilities out there, and air conditioning, special facilities requirements for all these same machines. All of that's all packaged up here. You can do it at your branch.
Now, I need to jump in on that one because, I mean, when you look and you see the size, and a lot of you that are involved with payment systems realize the size of sorters, the size of encoders, and they're all being replaced by a little thing like this. And of course, Francis, you're housing the facilities, air conditioning, just like Rick says, like power. There's quite a contribution here.
Yes, definitely.
I would go after you for numbers, but I'll get that on the next program.
I wouldn't even get rid of half our space.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And
That's
the cost
amazing.
is significant difference too. So a reader sorter, like we saw up on the screen there, that can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. This runs in the hundreds of dollars. And they're getting cheaper all the time.
And I bet even maintenance. When you look at maintenance of those kinds of equipment, they have to be costly, whereas this is going to be much different.
Right. This is in $100 to $150 a year probably for annual maintenance on this. Multiple tens of thousands for maintenance on a large sorter machine out there. And so it is a big difference, and it pushes this application to where it's used most out there. And also, if you're pushing this all the way out to a merchant location or in home capture, you're pushing it out to a member's home location, you just think that they're not getting in the car, they're not driving all the way to the branch multiple times during the month, they're not getting out and clogging up freeways and using fuel out there. They're doing all of that, and in your own branch, you're not having all of those kinds of activities in a teller line. So what you're really servicing is the members coming in that need to talk to somebody about some product or service that you actually can work with them to improve or cross-sell, those kinds of activities out there, and you're not clogging up your branch with these routine, repetitive type transactions out there.
So I look at that and I go, you know, when you talk about Check 21 legislation, that was definitely environmentally friendly legislation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Saves money, and the best part is it's one of those few times where we did pass something in the legislature and it has a positive impact to the business out there. And so you combine this with all the things that Francis was talking about, and you can do an awful lot of activities to make your organization more green out there.
You know, one thing I wanted to jump on that, I saw an article that was in the Credit Union Times when you talk about, you know, taking and doing remote capture and sizing it down the way you're talking, Rick. There was an article in the Credit Union Times that reported that Langley FCU reports results in greening of bill pay. So Langley was working with a provider, PSCU Financial Services, for its online bill pay system. And they promoted it as being green and friendly. And they were able to increase their subscribers from 2,900 to 6,800 just by associating the green factor with that, and of course doing it from home, saving energy costs, the whole bit. I mean, so again, as another idea, not only when you look at implementing this type of hardware, but the concept of being able to promote this as being environmentally friendly will attract an audience that people are looking for and want to be part of initiatives or efforts that are environmentally friendly, that are environmentally responsible. And they'd be more than happy. I'm sure the credit union would be successful, any credit union would be successful in promoting this as one way that they are being environmentally responsible.
Absolutely true. And if you can stop this paper at the first point of inception so that the member is actually doing it through home banking and never creating a check to begin with, that's a step in the right direction out there. The kinds of products that are available today, and this is not talking in the future out there, we're talking branch capture and teller capture, changing items from paper to ACH transactions through lockbox operations. We have image capture at ATMs available, image capture at a merchant location, and home capture. All of those products are out in the marketplace today and available to you. Another view from the Check 21 piece out here would be looking at your ATM world, and if you were to implement a solution that images items at your ATM, again, another point where you're going to save a lot. So those items that are imaged right when the member is doing their deposit transaction. So there's no more coming to the ATM every single day, driving there, unlocking that through a Brinks service or something like that, and pulling those checks out and taking them to a third party for processing. That's all done at the ATM level. So you skip, as the slide shows here, the transportation to and from the ATM, back to the branch or into your processor location out there. So you save a lot of steps, and you're only actually having to go to that ATM to service it when you need it for cash servicing only. And so that's a big savings out there. So from our point of view at Westcor, we encourage all of our members and members at large in the credit union industry to take advantage of all of these kinds of products and services that are available to you. Surround yourself, surround your members with these kinds of products and services. They're green, they're more cost effective, they're more environmentally conscious. They will do everything for you in the area of streamlining operations and providing more service for your natural end members out there. And then the last piece here that I would like to show is my credit union, which is a small $8 million credit union, California Center. It has one branch, a couple ATMs, and one kiosk. So on the size of the financial institutions out there in the world today, they are very small. But when they take and embraced all of these kinds of technologies out there, you can see from this slide all of the different points of access that I, as a member of this credit union, have. So I no longer have just one branch that I can go to. Through shared branching, there's thousands. There's not just one or two ATMs that the credit union owns. There's thousands of them. Convenience stores where I can make deposits and pull cash, in addition to doing things at home, or if I was a merchant, doing them as a business opportunity. So my small credit union can retain a small footprint in the environment, but actually be everywhere for its members. And this is a big change and a big opportunity out there, and it's really how you embrace products and services and combine them in with things that you have already. So you don't have to be big. You don't have to have a lot of investment into these kinds of things. It's really just moving forward and taking the opportunities when they present themselves.
It's very obvious, because when you look at it, you realize that big doesn't have to be better, and you also realize that through the application of technologies, a credit union can really establish a big footprint for itself in being able to reach out to its members.
Absolutely. One of the big slams in the credit union world is your accessibility out there. And something that the California Center has here on the screen, now they're accessible in many different locations around the state, certainly, and even around the country out there. And so they break through that one argument against the credit union world of you're not very accessible.
So now on April 22nd, Earth Day, coming up in, what was it, 6 weeks? 6 weeks. You can look at a credit union saying and touting all these different ways that you can interact with it, and it could be under the umbrella of it being environmentally responsible and being greener in providing those kind of services to its members. So I think the April 22nd date will definitely be a great way for credit unions to be able to really apply themselves in taking advantage of what's the message of being green, of being environmentally responsible. To give us a little angle now on how credit unions can go about tapping into their local media, positioning themselves, and interacting with their local media to get visibility for themselves in the local community. We have Sarah Snell Cook with us, who's the editor-in-chief at the Credit Union Times. And Sarah, you're there?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. This is great. I feel like we're on the evening news. but Sarah, we have the opening slide up, and let's take it away. If you have comments, and let's hear what you have to say about how credit unions could take advantage of tapping into the local media. Some ideas and tricks.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think media coverage is very important for individual credit unions, for the good of the credit union, the cooperative credit union movement, and also it's good for consumers. I entitled this presentation, Media Coverage is Like Free Advertising, and I really wanted to stress the like part, because it can be free advertising because you can get the exposure, extended exposure you want with very little actual dollar cost. But unlike ad space, you can't actually pay to reserve space, and maybe it should be relabeled priceless advertising. But I think the first, if you could go to the first slide, how not to get media coverage. One thing that some credit unions have issue with is separating out PR versus marketing. And I realize there are small shops where they have to combine staffers, but there really is an important division that needs to be made, even in the same person, in their mind. One, when you're presenting a story pitch to a newspaper, to a reporter, it needs to be a bit more sedate than your usual advertisement or your usual marketing pieces. You don't want to be jumping up and down saying, yes, we're great. That, of course, you want to get your spin into the story and your, the fact that you all are doing something excellent, but you need to explain more in depth why it's good. For example, with the Earth Day situation coming up, why is what you're doing good for the environment? Why is it good for the community? Why is it good for your members and potential members? And really outline that point by point for your media contact at the local newspaper, radio, television station. And it's excellent. I know Walt is the consummate PR guru to link your news like a Green Branch or a new online product that saves paper and time and money. Link it to a current event. That's a very good idea that community papers will latch on to. The other thing I think is important that sometimes credit unions don't understand is you cannot expect to be the only source in the story. Sometimes that happens, and it's great. Local newspaper might decide to do a feature on your branch because it's green. Other times, they may be doing a larger Earth Day story in which you can be a part of it, and even suggesting other resources is a good idea to help build a deeper relationship with the media. Direct them to other resources, such as the gentleman at West Course said, like the professional environmental groups that he belongs to. That would be one other source for the story as well. Also, one thing that I find with some of the press releases that come into us, and I know get copied to local community papers, is you don't ask to have a press release placed. I know of little, if any, news sources that will actually just run a press release as is. The reporters like to go in, either tweak the press releases and run a news brief, or if with some follow-up or with a developed relationship and rapport with a reporter, you can get a further story in there. And I also think it's important that the correct terminology be used as well. I get requests at times for to replace a byline, to replace a bylined article. Our paper, and I know others, only take articles from our staff, but some PR people will request to have a bylined article placed. Well, in fact, they really mean an op-ed or a column, so you really have to be clear on whether it's an opinion piece, whether it's an article, a story you're trying to pitch, or even just a letter to the editor that you want to submit. And then again, when you're talking about letters to the editor or op-eds and columns, the editors do always reserve the right to edit those. They do not absolutely try not to change the meaning of your letter or op-ed or column, but sometimes there's a consideration of space or factual correctness or what have you. My other point is that it is not a good idea to send out a press release to every possible news outlet you can imagine. One of the things that news sources really prize is exclusivity in stories. So I would suggest that you strive for quality versus quantity of coverage. It's a good idea to develop media contacts over time. And you don't want to be a mile wide and an inch deep, as I know Dan Micah always says about lobbying. And it's kind of the same thing. You're lobbying for space for a story in your local paper. As I said before that Francis mentioned, you want to direct them to other resources that could go well with the story, such as professional groups that are related. You want to make sure you zero in on the appropriate reporter that's going to be covering the story. Find out who the news beat reporter is, if there is somebody who actually covers, for example, facilities and how you can make them more green, or financial services and how something like imaging can make the process greener. And another thing that's particularly important is to be familiar with the editorial calendar. I believe every paper or magazine has one. We do on our website, and that lists out when we have special reports and what the subject is and when the material deadlines are so that you can target particular reports if there is going to be a special community report in a larger regional paper or something like that. The other final and very most important point on that subject is to know the deadlines of the newspaper or magazine that you're dealing with. I know our reporters always state it to all our sources, so to make sure that they get back to us in time. But you really need to respect those deadlines too, because we have to go to print at some point so that the paper gets mailed in a timely fashion, and especially with a daily newspaper, which I'm sure some of the communities out there have. Excuse me. You really need to be observant of those deadlines and make your appropriate news source available to the reporter. Excuse me. Additionally, there's nothing wrong with the press release, but it can't be the be-all, end-all. If you send it, they will not come. The most you might hope for out of that would be like a news brief or something, but if you have a developed relationship, excuse me, if you have a developed relationship, or if you, sorry about this.
Sarah?
Yeah.
Let me just jump in with a comment.
Sure, thanks.
That'll give you a chance to douse your throat a little bit. But I think, you were talking about relationships, and I think it's absolutely very, very important. One of the key things as well, too, is I think a lot of folks, and I'm wondering about this, when they do a news release, do they simply take that news release and just send it to everybody, all the contacts, email contacts at the local newspaper, or do they in fact identify who at the local newspaper is a writer who covers that particular topic with the hope of having a better success rate at sending their news release or contacting that particular reporter. Okay, if you would also comment on that.
Sure, yeah. Well, I know at our newspaper and every newspaper, the editors are very busy people, and they cover a variety of subjects by virtue of their position. However, if you get a hold of the reporter that's specifically assigned to that news beat, they're not only going to be likely more interested and more able and willing to talk to you, they're also going to know more of the background to begin with. So you're talking with a more educated news person and the person directly likely to write your story. Excuse me, or a story that would be you would be involved in.
Sarah, I'm going to jump in once more. I want to make sure that I don't want to overstress your thought. Let me just jump in very quickly, and I want to do one or two little questions, and we'll come back to you to complete the piece dealing with the media, because I also have some questions with you for you as well that have come into us. But at this time, I want to go back. I have a question in the last say 10 minutes that we have left. I want to go back to Francis and ask the question that has come to us that focuses on the duration of what it takes to be able to implement one of the programs that you're looking at. So you talk about the solar panels, you look at the motion sensors, or maybe some of the larger ones that needed board approval. What type of time span are you looking at? I mean, what kind of process do you go through to be able, from like start to getting the approval to make it happen? Is this like a very lengthy process, or can this be quick? Or if you could comment on that.
Well, how it evolved at Westcor, there wasn't a plan. We started looking at best practices. We started looking at pieces of the overall mechanical situation that we had here, the environmental situation. After 3 or 4 years of doing piecemeal solutions, we said, let's stop. There's much more to this than what we've already started, and that's when we started going into the bigger dollar volume endeavors, such as the solar panels, the variable speed motors, the things, the low-lying fruit, the window tinting, the taking out of the ballast, the changing of the bulbs, putting sensors on. Those things are the things we did at the initial stage, and then we said, there's got to be more to this. Where are we going to make some big impacts? Where are we going to save some major dollars? And that's when we started talking to our local utilities, started talking to our fellow facility managers, our fellow engineers, and started looking at best practices of other organizations and associations and what they were recommending. And then from that point, we then put together a budget. We did put together a plan. And then it took us 2 to 3 years from that point where we submitted the plan to get everything going. So all total, for everything that we've done here, it's probably 7 years worth. The last thing that we've done was the microturbine for this building. When we purchased this building because of our growth, it made sense for us to look at alternative sources of energy. But that was 3.5 years, 4 years ago. We're now looking at solar panels once again to provide parking shade for our employees. We have outside parking. It's not covered parking. During the summer, it can get to 112, 115 degrees. So if we can provide amenity to our employees by putting up a parking shade with solar panels and generate power at the same time and have a reasonable return on investment, it's something we want to consider.
And Rick, another question as well. When you're looking at digital settlement, what type of receptivity are you seeing among credit unions for that? And the reason I ask that is that when you look at the impact, and a major impact that it could play on a credit union in terms of moving to a unit like this, right, much smaller, needs less support, the kind of cost savings that a credit union could have, do you see a lot of credit unions, the trend really making the move to the digital, or is there still some reluctance that's occurring?
Well, I think that most credit unions, most financial institutions in general know that this is the wave of the future. And if you were to talk to the Fed today, they'd say by 2010, everybody will be doing this, and that there will be very few, if any, checks left into the system at that point in time. That being said, it's still a project. It still has to be prioritized. You still have to put some effort into it. I think that we find that it's less effort than most people think at the beginning. but it is still something that has to fit into their strategy out there. Once they do it, they understand and see the benefits of how much more float you get, how much your costs start decreasing in different areas. They see all of those benefits, and it's a wise move, and it usually pays for itself in a matter of a few months.
See, like a few months. I think if there's any selling point to go back to the board with, when you talk about the kind of savings that you could have in moving in this direction, plus it is the wave of the future, it's just endorsements have to come.
Right, right.
Now, let's go back to Sarah, and we could, Sarah, you're still with us?
Yes, I am.
You got rid of that little frog in your throat?
I hope so.
Wonderful. Well, I want to take a look, too, on if we look at how a credit union can really improve its chances of receiving coverage, and if you would care to fill us in on that.
Sure, yeah. One thing you definitely want to do is try to give the story a news hook or a bit of local flavor. And that's different for different publications, and it's very different for a publication like Credit Union Times versus your local gazettes. And because what's important to Credit Union Times would be why it's important to credit unions, who are primarily our readers. But with your local paper, why is it important to the community? Why is it important to your potential members that you're trying to reach? For example, one local spin that you could put on it, as I think Francis mentioned, was that if you're in Southern California, you can talk about using solar power, whereas if you're in Chicago, you can talk about using wind power. I mean, that's a very excellent distinction to make with your local media as well. And for Earth Day, generally speaking, why is that important to credit unions to get involved? Well, from our perspective, for Credit Union Times readers, politically it's a plus. It's a differentiator between the banks and the credit unions. It's socially responsible, and it helps share with other credit unions how you can help to push your services, and how your facility and services can save you money. Whereas it's important to the community for a variety of different reasons. Say the local creek was recently contaminated, or you want to talk about reducing landfill space, or why it's socially responsible to help attract new members, and particularly those Gen Yers who are very interested in social responsibility, and also how to help save the consumer money in the long run, as the credit union is able to at least maintain, if not lower, its prices. And another good thing that you should do with stories is provide very good art, which include color photos if you're talking about a color publication, or informative and attractive graphs. One thing that Francis mentioned earlier was the West Core Arbor Day event, in which they partnered with the city and used elementary school kids to help plant trees. That is an excellent photo op, not only for the credit union, but it looks good in the community paper too, when parents can point out and look at their kids planting trees on the front page of the community section of your paper. And I think that's also something that would draw the attention of the community paper to begin with. The other thing, Rick mentioned imaging and using less driving and delivery time, saving paper, saving money, saving space, less time in the teller lines. All of that is really important to the consumers who are reading the local community papers. And again, this is why it's very different when you want to sell a story to Credit Union Times or a trade publication versus selling it to your local newspaper. Another important thing that I thought everybody was probably pretty impressed with, Francis mentioned that moving from electric to gas created a savings of $86,000 for West Core. Including concrete statistics like that is very important to helping you sell a story, and it helps the reporter illustrate the story as well and why it's important to their readers. You can also include stats on energy savings, money savings, tree savings. I thought it was really interesting talking about the plantings and the colors of the asphalt. Those are unique things people may not think about. General readers of something like, your Anywhere USA Gazette. And additionally, for Credit Union Times, that also has an interesting hook as well, because other credit unions are interested in how they might be able to save money just by, changing the color of their asphalt. Pretty simple thing that people don't really think about. It's especially important, too, to smaller credit unions, as Rick mentioned, because not only is technology a great equalizer, but the exposure for the credit union and expanded services, exposure for the credit union in the local media is, like I said, like free advertising, and also showing that you're operating in a very socially responsible way. It's good to gain members, and with these savings, the credit union can also hope to expand or at least deepen its services to its members. So it's a neat story. It's good for the credit union movement, and it's good for the credit union as well. So I think it's win-win-win when proper public relations is employed.
So, Sarah, when you, as April 22nd draws near, are we going to anticipate seeing an article or two in the Credit Union Times that is really encouraging credit unions to really be in tune with the environment?
I can't imagine that there wouldn't be. I know we regularly cover credit unions lately that are greening their their services, as the story you mentioned, and their branches as well. I would hope that credit unions really start pushing the PR machine to get more stories out about this. We're certainly looking for them.
And Sarah, in many ways, I really do agree with that. That when you look today at a lot of the discussion going on in Washington too, when you talk about CRA and credit unions reporting about a lot of the activities that they do, and particularly how they're serving the underserved, I think it's very important that the more credit unions can tell the good news and tell the stories about what they are doing, the more we may be able to ward off any type of regulation that would require us to do so. So it's what everyone else is doing, and credit unions should be no exception to that, but tell and share with others what is going on. Sarah, thank you so much. We're kind of wrapping up. We're about a minute or so left, and I wanted to thank you for joining us today from Maryland. For your, I would recommend, my mother always said, a little tea, hot tea and honey, and Dad would also chime in, and a little Jack with it, and it'll be that'll take care of that throat for you.
I appreciate that, Walt. Thank you.
And Francis and Rick, thank you too for joining us today for our discussion, and thank you too for being with us here on Beyond the Balance Sheet. We look forward to having you join us again next month when we return with another discussion on something of great value to your credit union. Thank you and have a great day.